Hi Laura.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Not too bad, not too bad. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, perfect. Listen, thank you so
Amazing.
much.
No
Thank you so
problem
much for your
whatsoever.
time.
No problem. My pleasure.
Perfect. So, look, as it's 2 o'clock, we'll kick off.
No problem.
So I just want to thank everybody for their time in joining today's session. So Laura works in the UCC Skills Centre, which is based in the library, and it's a fantastic service, and we really encourage students to avail of it. So a lot of our international students wouldn't know what the skills service offers.
Mhm.
And one problem that keeps coming up is that there's a big transition for them from their university at home into the
Yeah.
UCC academic system, and they really struggle. And then for other students who are just coming fresh out of high school in maybe the States or the US, then it's another layer of transition again. So
Mhm.
look, I'll pass you over to Laura, and Laura will just take you through the resources that are available. I think the best thing to do is if you have any questions for her, put them into the chat. I'll help manage the chat, or you can raise your hand, but I think it's best if we let Laura get into her flow, finish her presentation or her talk, and then we can get to a Q&A at the end. Thanks, Laura.
Thanks so much, Natalie. That's a lovely introduction. Yeah, so good afternoon, everybody. You're very, very welcome along. Like Natalie said, my name is Laura and I work for the Skills Centre, which the official location is the Q-1 floor in the Boole Library, which will become a very, very common feature of the UCC campus for all of you. It's a very, very integral part of our campus, but it's also a very obvious part of our campus. So when you do come and join us, it's not that it'll be difficult to find. So don't feel like, oh my God, I won't even remember this stuff. That's absolutely fine. There will be plenty of signposting from us and from other colleagues that work with us. And we also have a host of undergrad tutors who do phenomenal work on our social medias and everything else. So it's just basically you going into the library, which you will need your student ID for. And once you've entered the library, we're in the basement. And even after that, we've provided these lovely yellow footprints that will take you right along to our front door. So as part of the presentation today, I just wanted to give you guys a look at some of we're going to first cover a little presentation on transitioning in skills. So they're just general skills that are sometimes useful for coming from different, like Natalie has said, coming from different mechanisms of education, but also coming from different cultural expectations and societal expectations. And sometimes that can be daunting in itself. So my goal with the time that we have together today is to just take you quickly through some of these transitioning in skills. I also want to briefly talk about your virtual learning environment, your VLE, which will be the space of Canvas. I'm just going to give you guys a look at what Canvas looks like and what you can expect with Canvas. And then also I want to just quickly show you guys as well our home webpage so that if you have any further questions, I can tell you about some of the services that we do, but also as well, I'm leaving you with a very, very clear signpost as to where you can find help if you need it. I mean, there is a host of help in UCC. I always say it's like Hogwarts. Help will be given at UCC for those who need it most. But it's beyond that. It's there inherently anyway. You don't even necessarily need to ask all the time. These services are there. They're free. They're for you. They're led by students most of the time. So it's important that you just familiarize yourself with these different services and don't think of it as a point of you asking for help. Think of it more of this is what I'm entitled to as part of my UCC journey. And I need to make sure that I make the most of that time. Make sure the juice is worth the squeeze because everybody puts something on hold when they come back to join university life. So I'm just going to show you guys my presentation here. No, sorry, it's just being a little bit temperamental. We'll close out tabs here. As with everything and technology, Teams being no different, it can sometimes decide to play up on you, but we'll just
Take
go
your
through
time.
these transition skills. And what I would say, guys, is that you probably will have questions. That's absolutely fine. If you want to interrupt me, absolutely no problem. Just maybe raise the hand function and Natalie will get to the question. Or I do want to leave time at the end so that we can answer all and as many of your questions as possible. So that's always good to just be aware of as well. I won't forget to do that. So just going to play from the beginning with this one. So like I said, this is transitioning skills. They're generalized, and it will be a whistle-stop tour of these because I want to allow enough time that we can cover Canvas and that we can also look together at the Skills Centre website. So don't get too, don't get too worried if you don't get to take everything down today. I think this session is being recorded. Is it, Natalie? Is this session recorded? Brilliant. So that would be fantastic. Yeah, that would be fantastic as a resource then for you guys to kind of look back on. So in terms of transitioning in skills, what do we mean? Well, we generally mean things like how you manage your time, how you manage your schedule, what process of note-taking are you most familiar with? Have you ever engaged in critical thinking or critical analysis? Have you ever had to plan an assignment? And what is your inherent motivation for being here? Ultimately, motivation will probably come from the fact that you want to upskill or improve your education. But for some people, it's just, I want to experience, learning in a different culture, or I would prefer to have a job in the Irish market, or I have Irish grandparents and they wanted me to come to university in Ireland. So there's a host of reasons which people are motivated by, and we love everybody to come and mingle with us and come and tell us their stories and to feel involved and feel included. So at any point, if your motivation feels like it differs slightly, that's only just another reason to share the story with us. In terms of time management, the biggest thing that we say to students as you prepare for your journey into UCC is to make sure that you're being really honest about your time management, okay? And being really forthcoming with your own set of routines. And that means then planning for 24 hours of your day. I know it seems excessive, but this is what we would say is really good practice for doing ahead of your first week of your first term. It's to set out a time map schedule for yourself. You can use this one as an example. I find this really useful for your first week, and to look at what that looks like for 24 hours of your day. You need to obviously include in that the most imperative things are sleeping, eating, where are your rest periods, where's your enjoyment, where are your responsibilities, your priorities, and then where are your, time where, okay, I was traveling here. Did it take as long as I thought it would take? So the biggest thing that we say is that you need to review it. So once you've done that for a week, reviewing the planned schedule that you've had will allow you to just kind of, I suppose, manipulate your time and to see, well, where did I gain time and where did I lose time? It'll also allow you to see if you're sticking to your schedule. If you say you're going to go to sleep for 11:30, are you going to sleep for 11:30? Are you going to bed at 11:30, but really you don't go to sleep until 12:30 because you're doing the danger scroll? We're all guilty of it. No judgment here. But then it's just about being really frank. No one's going to see this, by the way. This is an exercise that is entirely for yourself. And it's just seen as really good practice to be really kind of self-critical with yourself at this first point, because in understanding yourself and having that self-awareness, you'll be able to put your best foot forward when it comes to, ramping up around assignment time or trying to plan in an assignment. You'll already have a greater sense of what you do and what you spend your time on in a week. So then this will become part of your kind of weekly process. You also have the access to online calendars as part of your UCC student UMail. It will be connected to your Gmail calendar. And that's really handy for, as you can see, for stuff like today, where you were invited to an event or you were invited to a seminar, that will automatically link up with your Google Calendar. And that's really useful because you can actually sync all of your online calendars together. So you don't necessarily have to have separate calendars in different places. You can have them all merge into one. And that's really useful primarily because where we keep all of our calendars is on our phones. And I think that's really useful because we may or may not always have access to a laptop, but we know we always have a smartphone in our pockets. At least 98% of the student population will agree with me with that one. And if you're somebody who doesn't invest in technology, I have no judgment either, because I am one of these people that I'm like the backup of the backup of the backup. And I am one of these people that will absolutely have a paper journal on top of all my digital diaries. I will never, ever forgo being that person that writes everything down as well. If you want to access your Gmail calendar, you're simply logging into your student UMail and you'll see what we call, it's the waffle. So it's these, I'll get the laser pointer out there so you guys can see. But it's these 9 dots. So you'll either hear the waffle or the 9 dots, and it'll be next to your UCC student emblem. And when you press on that, then you can actually come down into your calendar there. So that's where that lies with your UCC student email. And if you have a UCC staff accountant, you're returning into education, or you're coming through a different route, that would look different because it would be Outlook. But Gmail is normally the way that people go. So you can also include the weekends, or, you can get a monthly overview. You might add in different calendars. So for example, you might add in like family birthday events. You might want to have religious festivities in there. You might want to have time, like for Ramadan, or if you might want to have like Dali or something like that. So you might want to have like all these different aspects of your life. And it's really important, guys, for like a sense of authenticity and for it to feel really like your own time management, to make it as, I suppose, you as possible. That means if you're somebody who likes to color code things and who likes to have different categories, go for it. Like I like to have like, my different categories for like, this is my reading time, it'll be in blue. This will be my assignment writing time, that'll be in red. This is my lecture attendance time, that'll be in orange. And that brightens up, not only brightens up my calendar, but kind of brightens up my day as well. Because when I get a snapshot of my day, it just, that sort of colorway and that kind of initiation into my day is an uplifting kind of experience. And it also allows me to see like a week view, a month view, so I can kind of see where I can start to plot my time and use my time effectively. When you're making this checklist, you need to be really, really stringent with yourself here, guys, okay? So there'll be requirements, priorities, and responsibilities. We all have them, such as life, okay? Things like this as well, people forget, is like, oh, I have a doctor's appointment. That's a priority. You don't have to earn like having to have, a health check or a dental appointment. Put that on your priority list. Don't leave that down to something like, oh, it's, individualized self-care. No, like you absolutely have to look after yourself. Same as sleep. People are like, oh, I have to earn the rest. Why? Like sleep is not it's something that you earn. It's an entitlement. We all need rest and relaxation in order to function. So don't punish yourselves. That's not the point of this exercise. Be realistic with your choice and just be honest with yourself. Like I said, no one's going to see it. It's just for you, but you need to be honest and kind of like realistic with your time. Don't say you're going to go to bed at like 9:30. Like realistically, like, is that going to happen? And if it does, super. But what time are you going to get up at then? Are you going to utilize your day by getting up early? Are you somebody that needs to rise later? How sustainable is it? Is there enjoyability within your week? You need to think about its well-roundedness, like how much of it is representative of you. Have you included, like, if you have cultural or religious festivities that you have to adhere to, are they in there? Where are you going to take time to practice those things? Are you going to be in a location that you're comfortable in which to do that? So all of these things are really important as well. Think of the big picture. Term is only 12 weeks. 12 weeks, and that's all it is. And I mean, they go like that. Natalie will attest to this with me. It just flies. So just make the most of it. Think of the big picture, think of the end goal, and think about making realistic goals for yourself. Culling review. We're big on the culling and reviewing. If something's not working, just fix it. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So that's the way we would say. And then in terms of your discipline and your procrastination isn't a bad thing, guys, okay? Because we frame procrastination and we've given it such a bad rap. But procrastination is sometimes necessary in order for your brain to kind of like amp you up to get something done. When it's bad is when you dally with it in the point of like, oh, I'm procrastinating, when really it's just laziness. Okay, so there is a fine line. Procrastination is disciplined laziness. Okay, it's where you've kind of gone, oh, you know what, I really can't do this today, so I'm going to clean my apartment, but I am going to do it tomorrow. That's procrastination. Laziness is where you're like, I'm just not going to do anything. So I'm not going to clean my apartment. I'm not going to use the time effectively. And I'm also not going to do my assignment. That's just then laziness. Or you can also think of it as in, do I need a day off? It might be your body's way of saying to you, you actually can't do anymore. In which case, that's absolutely fine. Just plan it in. It's part of your time management. So then the other thing we do, I suppose, is note taking. And note taking will differ depending on where you've come from. If you've come from the States, you probably have a really, structured way of taking notes. If you come from India, China, wherever you're hailing to us from, you'll all have a different system that you're probably familiar with. But the thing about it is that what do we actually use it for? So it differs dependent on what we are doing and where we need it. So for example, for academic reading, it records useful information for us. It allows us to deepen our understanding and our level of understanding with a concept by playing around with it and making sure that we kind of understand what we've said. It helps with your writing skills, sort of does half the work for you when you come into assignment time. It will improve your recall. It's just a natural thing because it's your image retention, your memory retention is being used. You're using your spatial awareness to create that space on the page. You're putting in the letters, you're writing it and you're reading it almost in your mind whilst you're saying it. Huge when it comes to essay planning is effective note taking. Like it'll be so, I go through my notebooks and I go back over them, even the ones from my undergrad, and I constantly see where I've written in the margins, like, this will be useful for essay, note. This will be useful for assignment, note. You could use this in a presentation. Little notes to myself. Like, that was a really effective measure on my part of being able to preempt a strike almost by having those things marked off. Presentation mapping, like I said, and most importantly, for majority of us, would be for exam prep. Note taking, you have 2 tools that you can use, and that'll help you read and understand a text in more depth. So this is very much for academic reading or for reading journals, reading studies, systematic reviews, meta-analyses, whatever it is that you're going to immerse yourself into. And the thing about it is that if you don't know it simply, you don't know it well enough. It's the easiest way of thinking about things. Sometimes I'll read a text and I'll be like, oh, mother of God, what have I read? I have no idea what that said. I mean, I'm an educated woman, but my God, sometimes I'm reading like 3 or 4 times thinking, I genuinely don't know what that says. So then just think, what can I pull out? Can I pull out keywords? Can I write it in my own words? I can worry about finessing and making it fancy later, but ultimately I want to know that I'm able to explain something to a lay audience, i.e., if there's someone in your house or your housemate that's in a different discipline to you, take some time to discuss a paper you've read and say, like, give them the synopsis, give them the summary, give them a brief account of the main points. Like, think about being shorter, because obviously you're not going to tell them about the whole paper. And if you can explain that to them in your own words, it means that you probably know it well enough. So make sure to reference your source. It's always important to kind of maybe, start thinking about what software package that you might use if you're someone who is really techie. So there's like EndNote, Mendeley, BibTeX. They're all like reference management systems. But there's nothing wrong with a good old fashioned copy and paste from Microsoft Word and just have really clear notes for your different modules, and also just taking down, like physically writing down a reference as well to keep it on hand, especially if you know it's a reading that was really important for you. In terms of critical thinking then, I suppose when we think critically while reading, it'll help you to evaluate the relevance and the usefulness of your information. So it's kind of like just not accepting that when you've read something, that's it. Because it's written down and because it's been an academic paper, like that's it must be true. It's, there's times where there's academics who have written things that have actually been incredibly problematic. For example, the big one, if you get vaccinated, as a child, it can lead to autism, or it can lead to, widely disparaged afterwards. But like, this was actually something that somebody read at one time. For you as a critical thinker, what it involves for you is thinking like, well, where is the evidence? Where is my proof? Like, how big is a sample size? Is that sample size representative of, my culture, my background? Do I see myself represented in that sample? Is there pro and, is there for and against? Being really balanced. And that leads to skills then to be able to think rationally and logically, to not just accept something at the first point because it's just been said by an academic, but to question. And lecturers love this, love being challenged in lectures. They love being engaged with. It shows as well that you're not just like a mindless robot with sort of no view of your own. We want to see your lived experiences, your life experiences, your cultural, your social, your relational experiences all come into play with this. And they really show when you are a critical thinker that you're able to sort of pause, take a step back, look at the information and really properly engage with it. So we always say it's just about remembering who said it, what is it that they were saying, when did they say it? Because sometimes timing can be very culturally valuable as well. I mean, we're now in, thankfully, a post-COVID era, but there's some research and literature that was done, we'll say pre-2019 or pre-2020, that we think now, like when we read it, we'd have to read it with a different set of lenses. We'd have to read it in a post-COVID perspective. Where is this research being done? Where is it being published? Why was it done? A lot of the times as well, you have to ask yourself as part of this, why was the research done at all? Especially if something is like cancer research, or if it's like, a big scale like bioinformatics study. Who's paid for that? Where is the money coming from? Is that person just an interested, professor or lecturer? Or are they somebody who is, a member or CAO of a company and is also an academic and has written a paper to boast their own research? So you have to be really, really balanced when thinking about that. And how did it come up? Okay. So in terms of your note-taking style, then no one uses the same systems. I mean, I always attest to the fact that everybody has their own way of doing things, and that's brilliant because no way really is the wrong way. It'll also change from subject to subject. You're not going to take down notes from mathematics and economics and, you know, architectural drawing, engineering. They're not going to look the same as, you know, arts, you know, history, applied psychology. They're all going to look incredibly different. So just don't penalize yourself. The main thing is to focus on what your learning preferences are. You can either have an online copy or a hard copy. Perhaps that you're somebody like that, like me, that I like to have both. And they can be numerical or text-based materials. You don't have to have, you know, a specific way. The one way that we have seen that students have had success with in the past is the Cornell note-taking system. So this is very much laid out in different columns. You'll see that you'll have the name and the date of your course across the top. You'll kind of have like bibliographic details, and it's very structured in that you have the 4 columns basically along, and the columns are representative of when you're reading something. You give it like the page number, what was it, the concept that you were reading about. Put the notes then in your own words, like, so what is it that you were actually trying to say? Paraphrase them. It's about pulling out those key phrases. Could I rewrite this simply? I'll dress it up later. And then you add in observations, links. You know what? I've read that somewhere before, but it wasn't quite said like that. I'm going to go back and check that paper and see what their sample size was. And, you know, maybe there's a link there, or maybe there's a different observation, or perhaps there was a limitation with that study that they've now debunked with this study. All of that leads to you becoming a more critical thinker as well. So the Cornell style in real time, this is how it looks. This is by a student, a sample from a student. But like I said, there's no wrong way of doing it, guys. So if this way doesn't work for you, don't punish yourself. Do whatever works for you. You can color code. It sometimes serves as a kind of mental shorthand. We normally color code when we want to like create a sense of like consistency or urgency in our writing. For example, somebody might decide at the front of their notebook to write anything in pink is always going to be for an exam. Anything in yellow, an assignment. Anything in blue is going to be for a presentation. And anything is green is just something I found interesting and I'm going to need to look up later, or I don't fully understand something, so I'm going to look that up later. So giving context to the material that you're reading means that you can read it more effectively, and that the understanding is more meaningful and you can be a more robust learner. So color coding tips that we would have is just that color code after your initial note taking. Don't try to color code while you're note taking, because like trying to do the 2 things at once is probably just going to jumble you up. Assignment questions will help to break down the reading into topics. So don't try to focus too much on creating topics yourself, like allow the assignment to guide you in that sense. And then also to think about how the color codes will help break your notes into blocks, and that'll help answer you the question. So, you know, a sample question here might be like, discuss why more Irish women joined the political system and legislature during the 1970s and 1980s. So you can see here sorry, now I'll just go back. Oh, it's gone again. I'll go back. So you can see here, like, you know, discuss why. So why is it that we're answering this question? We need to discuss, and we need to say why more Irish women. Then we can see here, like, joins the political system. So this would be like, we need to talk about the political system that they're joining. You need to talk about legislator. And then you're looking at the time frame at the end as well. So the 1970s and the 1980s specific. So then the three tell us assignment placement approach is to tell us what you're going to tell us. Like, how are you going to answer this question? What is your thesis statement going to be? What's your argument going to be? Tell us your main points, like how are you going to answer all of the main points that you've set out to do in relation to this question or assignment, and then tell us how you've answered the question. So how did you support your thesis statement? How did you support your argument? What are your conclusions? What are your limitations? What are your inferences from all of this? So that's a really effective way of planning any assignment and any essay. We kind of say, like, use the introduction to tell us what you're going to tell us, then use the main points to tell us what you want to tell us, and then tell us then how you answer the question with your conclusive statements at the end. So it kind of goes like your introduction, which will include your thesis statement. Then you have your topic sentences, which are the opening phrases kind of for like the main idea for each paragraph. And then you have coming down into that is your body of your paragraph, where your evidence and all of your ideas would then go. So that's the main chunk of your body of evidence. Your concluding sentences, they'll either conclude your sentence and conclude your paragraph entirely, or they'll form as a link or a transitional statement between one paragraph to the next to make it nice and easy and coherent and easy to follow. And then there's also the conclusion, which wraps up your entire essay as well. So topic bubbles will be representative of paragraphs, and this is a really nice way of just looking at how you would plan an overall assignment. A generalized assignment that we would have in UCC might be a literature review, or you might be asked to just do an academic paper review. And this is how we would go about planning it, is to use the idea of mind mapping. So again, guys, this is a whistle-stop tour. I don't expect that you're going to get everything from it all, but just remember that, you know, there is help available, and this is recorded. So don't worry too much if you're not going to take everything down. A huge thing that we advocate for students is to always remember to save your files and to kind of invest in a trustworthy and efficient file saving system for yourself. So a lot of the times we'd have students that come into us in the start of September and they say, like, I have no idea how to manage files. I have no idea how to save modules. I have no idea how to save what I should be saving. Can you help me? And all that is us planning like an effective file management system with them. It's one of the digital skills that we offer. We offer it on our digital skills passport as part of that. Good file management will save you an abundance of time. If you're somebody that doesn't like, you know, doesn't want to engage with tech as much and you don't want to utilize the storage systems that you have online, you can also just go old school and go the USB route, or you can save all your physical paper notes and have them as somewhere that you want at home as well. So then we're moving on to study strategy pointers. So a big part of, I suppose, coming into this tertiary framework of education for anybody who is coming straight from high school or from secondary education, this will be mainly for you guys because it'll be a lot different. For people that are coming from different countries and different environments, it may look different as well to how it has looked before. But ultimately, what we try to advocate for is to choose an environment wisely, choose something that works for you. I have known students who cannot study if it's quiet. That might baffle some people. Some people are like, what? But they need a television on the background. They need to have music playing. They need to have something going on, and they're quite happy in that space. That works for them. That's them choosing their environment wisely, knowing that that's how they learn most effectively. So like, there's no one way of doing it. Obviously, the majority rule would be to find a nice, cool, while also warm, depending on the time of the year that you're in, you know, well ventilated, open, and kind of like clean environment for yourself to get as much as you can like get near you without having to move away with any great urgency, to minimize your distractions. Turn your phones on silent, turn them over, don't look at them, don't have notifications beeping in your face, you know what I mean? And like, have as much as you need in terms of like, you know, do you need a snack nearby? Are you somebody that needs to have a lot of caffeine? If which case you need caffeine, try to think about having decaf options. Don't use, you know, energy drinks too often. Have some water, keep yourself hydrated, keep yourself stocked up on snacks and food so that you can keep yourself running. Fruit is a great way of doing that. You know what I mean? Like those little fruit pots or something like that. So that just keeps you ticking over. Organize into study groups, especially for international students. I've found this one really helpful in the past, just because you may not, you know, be familiar and you may not feel as confident in approaching, you know, our home students, but we're all UCC students. So as much as physically possible, please do try to mingle in with your classmates as much as possible outside of your international cohort. But if you feel more comfortable also creating like international cohorts, that's absolutely fine as well. You can use past exam papers, and you can use the use of bullet notes and try to use assistive technology. You can also incorporate other things into how you study. I know that I'm somebody that I like to go for long walks and just be silent with myself and kind of in my head review all the information that I've taken in that week, and to see what way I would be able to organize that information if I was asked something about it in an exam. And I do that out and about, like going for a walk. I don't necessarily do that sitting, you know, in a library or sitting at a desk. Sometimes I just need to incorporate different activities into it. A lot of people I hear do mindfulness, yoga. That can be a way that you can incorporate some physical activity into your study time as well. And always think about time chunking. Guys, the average human attention span is 8 seconds. I don't know where they got this thing that we're better than the goldfish. The goldfish have 20 seconds. We have 8. Constantly repetitive, like having to re-engage our brain, So you saying to anybody that you're going to sit down and study for 8 hours, not only is a disastrous waste of your time, but it's also just really unrealistic. The short bursts of time, so like studying for 30 minutes, then giving yourself a 5 to 10 minute break, then studying again for maybe 45 minutes and taking a 15-minute break, then leaving it for that day, then coming back maybe later on in the evening, or, depending on your work schedule, or you might have something else on with friends or family. Think about time chunking versus I'm just going to cram the day before my exam. Trust me, it doesn't work. It's not effective, and it just ends up making you more stressed out than you need to be. So in terms of exam prep, then when it comes to this time, obviously, we're just starting off and exams are so far away, but it does tend to kind of creep up on you quite quickly. And it will be something that you'll be like, oh my God, I feel like I just got in the door and there's so much happening, and there's always so much going on around campus as well, that you kind of like, oh my God, I feel like I blinked and it's Christmas. That's what happens. It just genuinely does kind of creep up. But that's why having vigilance around exam prep, it's not a scary time if you've just been attending your lectures, going to your tutorials, trying to engage with the material as best as you can, and trying to be as involved in your lectures as you can as well. Put your hand up in tutorials, try to speak, try to ask questions, engage with each other, generate discussion groups on your learning space, which we'll look at in a little bit. But yeah, so it's all about kind of like identifying the material that you need for each subject, and use Canvas. Like, we'll go and have a look at Canvas there now in a second, but it's virtual learning environment. Like, that's literally what it exists for, is for you to virtually learn in your own time in a way that's most effective for you. That can include YouTube videos, it might include a podcast, it might include a blog post. There are all different methods and ways of learning. And there's also the discussion groups that you can create together with your classmates. So that can enter into like, debates, respectful, of course. But it can just, give you different points of learning and give you different ways in which you can engage with the material. So it's not just, straight down the line, you just need to read it kind of thing. Past papers are useful. You can get a whole host of past papers in the library, but we also have online databases as well. And the library does run courses in the first 2 weeks of semester on everything, like referencing guidelines, citing guidelines, how to look up, your books that you need, how to check a book out, how to look for past exam papers, how to print stuff, how to record stuff in the library studio. There is a plethora of things that you can do within the library. So I would advise you guys to definitely get your library tour as part of your orientation. And then after your orientation, your initial orientation, go for a wander. There's so many things that you can look, do, and see within the library. And once you're in there and you're quiet in the places that you need to be quiet, well, then there's no reason why you can't busy yourself by going around and seeing all the services that are available for you and all the amazing courses that they put on as well. As you said before, we've mentioned color coding for revision material. These are just like, guys, I said, a whistle stop tour of trying to get everything into one session for you. But this by no means should be seen as an exhaustive list, because there's so much that there can be involved in, and we really just want you to feel as welcome and as inclusive and as, I suppose, valued as you all are, because you are valued. We're delighted that everybody here has decided to study with UCC. You're a part of our fantastic campus, and we really thoroughly hope that you enjoy this experience. So these are just skills that kind of we get out of the way so you can make the most of your time here. So your motivation should be about like the quality of the hours, not the quantity. Like, don't, like I said, spend 8 hours if the 8 hours is actually spent like scrolling on your phone, or I've been on a Skype call to my mom, or I've, been reading a magazine and then I went for lunch and sure I came back and I didn't get anything to. Just don't kid yourself. Like one to 2 good hours are worth 8 faffy hours, okay? Break your tasks down into manageable chunks. Like I said, time chunking, it's a huge thing. It's a huge help to me. It's been a huge help to a lot of us in the Skills Centre, attest to it. We've done this. We're students ourselves. I'm still a PhD student. Time chunking is how I live my life. So I definitely can attest to the benefits of time chunking. Set non-negotiable hours as well for your coursework. So like leaving people know that these are the times in which that you're going to do, or you're going to set aside for this within your schedule. It's also important as a non-negotiable to have non-working hours. You don't have to respond to people outside your normal working hours. Treat this as if you would a 9-to-5 job, and I promise you will never need for any more than that. Ensure that you have an appropriate study environment, whatever that means for you. Eliminate your distractions. If it's going to distract you, just put it in somewhere else, put it in a different room. Try to stay connected. meant to be an isolating experience. Like, we're social creatures. We're meant to engage with each other. We're meant to be around and to support each other. And the international students community in UCC is one that is second to none. I can properly attest to that because I've been a peer support leader for 3.5 years. And I know that for all the incoming international students that I've seen through the years, it has been such a profound and inclusive community. You really need to hone in on that and make sure that you're making the best of that opportunity. Do the required reading as you go. Don't leave everything to the last minute. And just remember that big picture. Remember that you have set yourself a goal. Remember why you're doing this. Remember why it's important to you. And on the days when the Irish weather will set in and you'll be thinking, oh my God, I thought it was lovely green pastures here and it's just miserable, grey and rainy. Those days are more often than the sunshine days, I can promise you. So when it's on those days and it feels a little bit difficult, just realize you're not there on your own. We're a community, we're a cohort of students all together, and we're all here to support you and to support each other. So don't feel like you're ever in this situation on your own. You're not. So that is the end of that presentation. So I'm just going to come back to the room a second, and then I'm going to share my screen again, just to show you guys Canvas. But if there's any questions at this time, I can take some of them at this time while I'm getting the other presentation up.
Thank you so much. I'm just looking at the chat there now, Laura, and there's one question from Christy. Hello, I'm sorry, I think I missed where I could find past papers or exams.
Okay, no problem, Christy. Nice to have you as well. Past papers or past exams, if you wanted to have a look for your different modules and see what it is specifically, module specific is usually a good one to have a look at. They'll be in the library database. If you want to call into the library, I know they have got some still physical exam papers, not a whole host of them, I won't lie, because we kind of moved into this very virtual space by nature of the dreaded COVID that we've done that. But that being said, there's still a ton of resources in the library that you can utilize. And if they don't have physical copies of the exam papers, they most certainly will have online versions of them that they'll be able to point you to. So I hope that answers your question. But if you do run into anything in terms of that you need assistance with, the library help desk. So when you go into the main library reception area, there's a help desk there. You can ask them absolutely anything. And they are, like I said, a wealth of information and resources, and they're always super willing to help any student out. So they're a good one to follow into. Sorry, now I'm going to stop presenting. Trying to find where I have my...
Take your time.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find where I've actually pushed this. Let me
Laura,
just see.
if they have any questions after this, can they email you, or is there like a general skills center email?
So I'm going to put the general skills center email. Sorry, I found where I'm looking for there now. So I'm going to put the general skills center email into the chat. So you guys can absolutely contact us in the skills center. But what's more important is when I show you the skills center website, which we're going to do just after we've had a quick look at Canvas. Once I show you this, you can actually book one-to-ones. As UCC students, you're entitled to 3 one-to-ones with a tutor, either more aligned to your own specific subject, but also just a general tutor that can help you with anything that you might be struggling with or any questions that you might have. And we can do that in a one-to-one basis, either online or in person. They're a half-an-hour session. You're entitled to 3 a month, and they're free. So I would encourage students, especially international students, don't be out here worrying. Like, definitely 100% get in, get a session booked up. We're there now. Like, we don't take vacay, so we don't take the summer off, and we're there, you know, all year round. So just come and meet with us. We love to meet with international students especially. So this is what Canvas looks like. So as I mentioned before, Canvas is your virtual learning environment or your virtual learning space, whichever you're more comfortable with. This is actually my Canvas. So it probably will look different to a lot of yours. And I do have dual Canvas functions. So I have Canvas as a student, this is my student one, and I obviously have a staff Canvas as well. But I do have bits down here that would be related to teaching. So don't worry if you see something and you think, oh my God, what in the name of God is that? Not to worry, okay? Canvas is a very intuitive space, and it has a ton of stuff that is devised for each individual person. But just some general things to note about Canvas, okay? It's fantastic in the sense that all of your modules that you will have signed up to will be present here in a kind of like little table format, right? So you'll have these little tiles. And also with these little tiles, you can individualize them as much as you want. So you'll see these 3 little dots that we have here on the page. If you press those little dots, not only can you give the, you can give it a nickname. So if you wanted to say, you know, Dig, Badge, PPI, because that's, I'll shorten it and I know that that's what it means, and that's what I play. And I'm going to make it pink because I saw Barbie last week and I'd like to think that everything is pink now. There you go. You can modify it to call it whatever it is that you want. So as well as this as a useful function for international students, because if you want to put it in your own language, go ahead. If it's easier for you to remember what it's associated with, then do that. You know what I mean? And if it's easier for you to color code it because it's how you learn or it's how you keep things in order, that's also important to do. Here you can see with an active, so sorry, I've done this and it's completed, so it won't have every feature on it. But here you'll see there that there's a little megaphone, and that stands for the announcement section. So if ever you have anything in the megaphone, it means that there's been a course announcement. I'm trying to say, so here you can see this is the course I teach on. So there's announcements in this course, and it'll actually come up and tell you about how many announcements there are that you have unread. So you can click into your announcements button. Here then we also have assignments. So anything that's coming up as an assignment, it might tell you that there's a due date, or any assignments that are overdue or coming up in the next kind of 2 weeks, that would be in there. And then here we also have discussions and chat function for the different modules. So if you have a new chat in here, it usually means that either somebody in your class group has decided to, you know, open a discussion and may want to engage with you. It also means that you probably have a message from your lecturer, is more often the case. They usually communicate with us through Canvas. Now, not to worry, because when you set up your Canvas, it does allow notifications which are then sent to your email address. So your email address will receive notifications from Canvas when you do receive new module information or new module registration, or there's been something from your lecturer. But try not to neglect this space either. Sometimes, like with all technology, it can miss a beat and you just don't want to miss out on anything and any information. So just making sure that you're checking in here, and this will be where you'll upload your assignments. It'll be where like you get all your course information. You can see here in the corner, the top right, it says coming up. So it allows you to view your calendar in here. It also tells you if you have anything coming up. Like you can see here, nothing coming up for the next week, but that's because we're not in term. And then it'll also show you any recent feedback that you've received. So I haven't done an assignment in quite some time now, thank God. But if I was to have done an assignment and I had received recent feedback, that's where this would be. And then it also allows me to view any grades of anything that I've either graded or had a grade put for me. So just to bring you down, I'm trying to think if there's any here that I can actually go into. So one that I've actually done myself was this one last year. I'm hoping that it'll show you what it looks like. So for example, here you'll have recent announcements that will be from your module coordinator, but you'll also have things like your home page for that module. You'll have the module year and the module code. You'll have the different modules. You'll have the discussions, assignments, the people involved, and whatever the grades might be as well. So Canvas is a very usable interface. It's not daunting. You just need to spend a little bit of time becoming familiar. Again, just to reiterate, guys, if there is anything in any way, shape, or form that you are unsure about, we are here at the Skills Centre to help you. Nobody wants anybody to feel like that they're struggling or that they don't know something. So just contact us and say, listen, I would love a tour of Canvas. I would love to see how I'm using it. Am I using it in the right way? And in which case we would only be too happy to help out with anybody and to go through Canvas. There's also as well, there's also an actual learning workshop on Canvas that we do separately. So if anybody's interested, you can sign up to do that. And I will show you guys where you can actually get to sign up for all the different workshops now in a second. I can see, Lauren, that you have a question about, can you access Canvas on a mobile app or simply on a desktop? You can actually do both. Canvas is also a mobile application, but what I will say about the mobile application versus the desktop application, they do differ slightly in the sense that some of the stuff won't be available to view on your mobile, and that may be just due to licensing things, and it also just may be the size of a document. If somebody has uploaded a particularly extensive reading for you to read just a chapter of, you may only be able to get that on desktop. So just being aware of that, Lauren, will help. And Bryce, thank you as well for filtering out that question for me. That's super helpful. So I'm just going to show you guys really quickly now the Skills Centre website and bring you guys through what that looks like. And then if you have any questions, we can pause then for a little bit at the end, and I'll stop talking and let you guys take over. So here we have the Skills Centre website. So I'll copy and paste here the actual website into the chat so that you guys will have that, and I'll pop that into the chat afterwards. But you can see here that this is what it looks like. I mean, it has everything. Here is our home page. If you hover over the home symbol, it'll bring you back to the start, so you don't need to worry. And if you come down here, you can see some of the services that we highlight that we do on a very regular basis. So stuff like asynchronous essay feedback, whereby we allow you to upload 1,000 words of your academic writing, and it is then sent out to a tutor. And you are giving personalized essay feedback on structure, style, any other queries that you might have, perhaps that you're worried about your coherency, your use of language. Have you, included enough like examples? The one thing that we can't do, I suppose the two things that we can't do, we don't tend to do grammatical checks, because we say that, every Microsoft Word now would have an editor function, every Google Docs would have an editor function. So we try to encourage students to not be too complacent and try to, work on your grammar on your end of things, but we will pick up on little grammatical errors if we see them. The main thing that we cannot help you with at present is referencing. So you need to become aware of your own discipline. What is the referencing style that you need to be using for that? And with that, then utilize the library. The library is, like I said, the main hub of information for referencing and citation. And there are skills specialized librarians who will be subject specific, who will know exactly what it is that you need to know and how you need to go about it. So please do look up in the library. In the first 2 weeks, there'll be referencing workshops, and I would highly, highly recommend for everybody to take them. We also have different notifications when we have different things that we have going on. So for example, right now we have the Shut Up and Write, which is a postdoctoral space from 9 to 1 Monday to Friday in the Skills Centre, whereby we allow, you'll see here that I have this background of our actual classroom space. That is the classroom space that we kind of basically rent out for students to come in and write for their PhD during the summer months whilst they're busy. And about here, you can see here, we have, a little bit about us. I've been working hard on this section over the summer, so it's going to get a lot more jazzy, and we're going to have a lot more information in here really soon. But yeah, the about section is there. We also have all of our sessions and our workshops that we have available are all in under here. And you can also find a really handy list of downloadable PDFs. So I'm going to wink on that one, because not a lot of people know that they're there, but they're free. You don't need to do anything. You don't even need to sign up to a session. They're there. They're available. Have at it. You're a UCC student. They're as good as yours as they are mine. If you do want to book a session, this is where you need to bring yourself to. It's our webpage, and it's just a book a session. You can see here the intuitive light bulb above a crowd of people. So that's where you're going to book your sessions in. Digital badges. We do have a host of digital badges. They're more specific, streamlined extracurricular courses. If you're interested in filling your time, perhaps that you want to get better at presentation skills, perhaps that you want to take Everyday Matters, well-being course. There's a whole host of digital badges there. So do familiarize yourself with that space. And if you feel like it's something that you're going to have time to do, by all means, we would vastly encourage all of our international students and our home students to look up at the digital badges and the micro-credentials. They make for beautiful LinkedIn additions. We also have loads of academic resources, guys, and this will also be available to you on Canvas through your Success Zone, which is inbuilt on everyone's Canvas. You don't need to go register in for it. You don't need to go and look for it. If you scroll down the end of your page on Canvas, it's there for you to find. So don't worry if you don't, like I'm saying all these things and you're like, oh my God, I didn't sign up for that. A lot of the stuff you don't need to sign up for, because it'll be done for you automatically. So like the likes of Canvas, your Google Calendar will already be there, being signed up to different courses. But signing up for like sessions and individual workshops and one-to-one appointments, you will have to engage with for those. There's also information for our staff, but you guys don't need to worry about that. It's more so for the college staff as well. And then we also have like some stuff about what we kind of do, like separate bits and pieces. So like digital skills workshops and additional resources that we have. We have a calculation center that runs, I think, on a Monday and a Wednesday afternoon. It used to be for last year. I don't know if they're going to keep it the same this year. I don't work in the calculation center, so I can't really attest to that right now. And we've had a lot of staff changes over the last kind of like 2 months, especially. We've got a new head of skills center coordinator as well, Dr. Aideen Regan, who is absolutely phenomenal. And so like there's been a lot of changes with us. So I don't know that the times are going to stay the same, but you can sign up to have notifications sent to you for when these things kick off as well. We also talk a lot about academic integrity, and we are all advocates of academic integrity in the Skills Centre. You'll frequently see us either in bright yellow or purple jumpers. The purple jumpers are our academic integrity jumpers. And basically what it means is having pride and having, I suppose, a sense of achievement by always doing your own work. And when you haven't done something that is your own work, or it's not come from you, or it's not your idea, that you reference and cite appropriately. So that's something that we are very passionate about here in UCC, as I'm sure it would be your host institution or wherever in the country that you came from. Academic integrity is universal. So it's just something to get yourself familiar with as well. There's also kind of a you know where to go online learning library. And we do have stuff like we have blogs about like, if I knew then what I know now, where some of our tutors will tell you things about like, oh, if I knew then what I know now about, you know, doing an English course, or if I knew then what I know now about being an architectural student. So there's tons of resources in that website there that you can have a little look through yourselves in your own time. As you can see there, it also has our email address, it'll have our phone number, and it'll have a direct link to bring you to the Skills Centre webpage as well. I know that seems a bit like counterintuitive with the whole website on a website, but you know, sometimes people can get confused. Just to make it really, really clear, the link is there and it'll bring you back to us irrespective. So yeah, so that's everything I wanted to go through with you guys. I wanted to leave adequate time, obviously, towards the end so that everybody would have an opportunity if you guys wanted to ask me a question. And beyond that as well, guys, I returned to university after being out of education for 12 and a half years. Trust me when I say the imposter syndrome is real. Everybody at some point is going to feel like, oh, I don't know, is this for me? I don't know, do I belong? Let me quaver any issues or fears that you might be having by telling you everybody belongs in UCC. And I have never met a single person in UCC who has ever made me feel like I don't belong, irrespective of how I look, how I dress, how I act, how I believe, what my religion is, how I identify, what my sexuality is. You are all welcome. There is a space for everybody in UCC. So I hope thoroughly that you enjoy this process. I hope you have an amazing term with us. And I hope that you do continue to come and see us in the Skills Centre, because more than anything, we love a cup of tea and a chat. So
thank you so much, Laura. That was brilliant. I learned an awful lot myself, actually.
Great. Always good. Keep learning. That's it.
That's it. So I've just popped loads of different things into the chat that came into my mind about referencing, plagiarism policy, grading system, things that I know students ask me. But I have another meeting at 3 p.m. So please, now is the time to ask any questions. Obviously, Laura's the expert about the Skills Centre. So is there anything you're not sure about? Anything we didn't cover? Although I'd say that's doubtful. You covered everything. So
as best as I could. It is a very quick tour, so I know it can be daunting for people. And also, guys, just to say, you might be feeling like, oh, I have loads of questions, but I don't want to ask you right now because I don't want to ask you in front of everybody. I hear you. I'm that person. I'm like, I'll ask via email 3 days from now. Fine, do that. But please don't suffer alone. Do you know what I mean? Don't suffer alone. We want you to ask us.
Thank you so much, Laura. I appreciate what you've said, but I'm going to take my time. It's everything that you've said, and then if I have any question, I'm going to ask. Okay.
Amazing. Yeah, absolutely. I would definitely recommend doing it that way. Even, do you know what? Like, it's like, let's call a spade a spade. It's Thursday. It's almost the weekend. You know what I mean? So let it sink in for today.
That's it.
You know, take your time with it. Maybe watch the video back and see, is there anything that you can kind of like look into? And that'll hopefully be helpful. But yeah. But if you have any questions in the meantime, by all means, you can get back onto us.
It's a lot to digest, but there are just 2 questions there. You can probably see them yourself from Caroline Schuster.
Yeah, so I have some off-topic questions about a module selection. I hope that's fine. Yeah, so how does the module selection work next week? Is it first come, first served basis? I'm an Erasmus student and I have not yet received my learning agreement back from the UCC Erasmus coordinator. Which courses should I choose then? The courses I have agreed, learning agreement. Okay, so this isn't actually massively my area. But what I will say about choosing modules on a first come, first served basis, I actually think that it is probably done on a first come, first served basis, but I've never known a student to be, inherently disappointed either. I think there is a lot of manoeuvring done in collation with the International Students Office, but also with the Student Exam and Records Office. And I think that they try to facilitate students' desires as best as they possibly can. But if you have any questions in relation to that, I think they're probably best directed towards either the Erasmus coordinator or the SREO office, which is the Student Records and Exams Office, for which I think the actual address is just very simply this.
I'd say Jim is the best person to get in touch with in our office. He's the Erasmus coordinator, because there might be rules around, what we need to have. So I don't know, I'm not going to go near it. Just please email Jim. And I know registration emails are to go out, but that's a lot of the questions we're getting. So that's, I think that's another one there from Lam. Could we register a tour for Canvas webinar now before arriving to Ireland?
Actually, quite a good question. It is something that we get quite often, is like, can I actually do the sessions now? If they're available, if the sessions are available to do, and you have a UCC student email and you've been registered as a student and have accepted that registration offer, then yeah, you can absolutely, if there's a session being run that's earlier than the time that you plan to come to Ireland, there's no reason why you couldn't actually come to one of those sessions. Like I said, if you go onto our website and you go on to book a session, you'll actually see that we have a calendar up in place anyway. And if you have a UCC student email and you have been accepted and you have accepted your registration offer and you've paid your fees, then as far as we're concerned, you're a UCC student. So all these services are available to you, and we do run a Canvas webinar. So absolutely. Beyond that as well, Canvas is not a UCC owned affiliated software package. It's actually, it's used in a lot of different places. I'm actually based in London, and I know that UL uses it. The King's College uses Canvas here as well. So I know that there is a ton of different universities that use Canvas as a learning space. So you could actually just do a YouTube video, if that's any good to you, Lam. You might want to have a look on YouTube and see if there's anything there that might be information that you could use before you come over. So
so any more questions? Sorry, go ahead, Laura.
No, I was just reading to say, guys, you don't have to thank me for my time. I thank you for your attention. I know it's tough. There's a lot of information being thrown at you, and this is such an exciting time. And I know, when there's so much being going on, so just take your time with it. There's absolutely no panic. You know what I mean? We will absolutely get back to you. We'll get back to you.
So Jim McAvoy is not answering my emails at the moment. Is there someone else I can contact? No, it is Jim, and everybody is absolutely slammed. So I know I'm not getting to my emails timely either. It's just impossible. So please do just wait. He will get in touch, okay? And he is in the office. He's live now, but he's just battling a deluge of questions. So look, I as I said, I have another meeting at 3. I really need to go to. So are there any other questions or doubts or comments? I think everybody's in agreement that it was a really, really good and thorough presentation, Laura. And I think the fact we're recording it will really help an awful lot of students. And I will make sure to send it to you. I'll put it on Facebook, Instagram, and on our website so that it'll get pushed out and it will be utilised. So any other questions for Laura?
I'm good.
Okay, thanks again.
Brilliant.
Perfect. So look, thank you so much. I'm sorry to have to cut it short. Laura, do you want to close with any thoughts or anything?
Just to wish you all the very best of luck, and to know that you're not going to be strangers. We'll see each other again, and I wish you all the best for the future. Okay, so mind yourselves, and we can't wait to welcome you here to Ireland and to UCC especially.
Thanks, Laura, and thanks everybody for joining.
Thank you.
See you. Bye.
Bye.